Hey everyone, I'm John Miller back with our head coach Samantha Jones here at Compass. And today, Sam, we're talking about something really important I know a lot of doctors are concerned with, and that's same-day treatment as we're trying to see more and more patients. This is something doctors tend to love. It can increase your production, but it also comes with a few pitfalls.
Yes.
So Sam's come up with 4-part process of dealing with same-day treatment. And Sam, let's just jump into it. Number one is scheduling to goal.
Yes. So I think it's important for us to recognize a few things around a goal. I've seen practices where they have goals set in place or they don't, and they're producing like $13,000 on Monday. And then come Tuesday, they're at like $4,000. So if we're paying attention to a daily goal, it will help us to find a direction in when and where it's appropriate to do same day treatment before you just jump in and say, hey, Mrs. Jones, we can take care of that for you today.
Right.
So
you may not actually have time for that filling that you would just normally say, let's do it.
Yeah, it could completely derail your schedule for the day. And it could put other patients' appointment times behind. So you're running other patients late and we're not considering, the time that they've committed to already, which I believe is an important aspect of the patient experience.
Right. Don't try to jam too much in there. Don't try to force it if you don't have to, correct? So that relates to point number 2 is you really want to look at this in the huddle.
It's really important to talk about even hypothetical same-day treatment possibilities throughout the day in huddle. If you already have certain emergencies scheduled for the day and you're talking about those emergencies in the huddle, you can discuss who should be where if we decide that we're going to treat that patient the same day. So I think that first of all, it's really important for the person that answers the phone and schedules that emergency appointment that the triage piece of that is really healthy. So you should be asking really good questions on the telephone. So let's say Mrs. Jones called in, she had a toothache, and I answered the phone, and I'm asking Mrs. Jones all kinds of questions. I'm asking her if the tooth was sensitive to hot or cold. I'm asking her how long it's been hurting. I'm asking her to count with her tongue from the back of her mouth so that I can try to identify what tooth it is, and I can be looking at her chart to see if there's existing treatment on that tooth. If I gather all of that information and then I share that out in huddle, then the doctor can be thinking, I remember that tooth. I remember exactly the situation with that tooth that had really deep decay when we placed that last filling in there. And she might be experiencing something where we might need to look at doing a root canal and crown. If that is the situation, then you can look at the schedule, you can create this hypothetical plan and be ready to go when Mrs. Jones comes in for treatment.
Right. And we talk about this in the Compass program. We've got kind of a related topic, which is emergency triage. We actually have this form. It's the emergency triage form. And if you guys want one of these, we're going to make this available to you. It is included in our Compass video program with a video that goes with it. But if you would like to see this emergency triage form, it really helps you get down to what Sam was talking about. Where does it hurt? What type of sensitivity? Which tooth? And then you can determine the nature of the emergency. That can also help your schedule quite a bit.
Exactly.
So we'll send that out to you. But let's move on to part 3 of this. And this is a better communication with your team, you said.
Yeah. So I've seen this happen actually more times than I'd like to admit, but basically I've seen the schedule change. So, there's one patient in one operatory with a doctor and maybe an assistant. And then the front desk team becomes aware that they're going to do same day treatment. But the rest of the team is oblivious. And that can be a problem. We need to make sure that it is communicated to the entire team. Once that's happened, once we've had the patient come in, we've diagnosed what needs to be done, it's really important that we bring everybody on the team into the loop that there's been a change in this schedule. And in different practices, that can be done in different ways. I've got some practices that wear walkie-talkies and they can chat with each other. A lot of the practice management software has a messaging system inside of it where you can send messages to everybody's computer in their operatory and just say, hey, change in the schedule, check it out, something like that. Or you can just get up from your seat and make a quick round and say, hey, check the schedule, something's changed, just briefly to every person. When we do this, it kind of puts everybody into this activated mode where they understand that something has changed, something is different, and they need to just develop awareness around that so that they can jump in wherever they need to, or, maybe flag the doctor a little bit earlier for an exam. Whatever the situation is, when we over communicate the change in the schedule, that only helps the whole process.
You cannot communicate too much in a dental practice.
You cannot.
Right.
We say that like every single time we get together. It's so
right.
true.
Yeah.
Yes.
The other part of that is not just your internal communication, but now part 4, you have to communicate same day treatment expectations with patients, correct?
You do. Sometimes in same day treatment, we get shuffled or disheveled in our processes that we've already set into place. So we have to make sure that we're not skipping those. It's critical to still have the financial arrangements conversation with that patient. Just because we're doing same day treatment, you have to find the system in your practice that will allow you to pop back there and, go through the financial arrangements with the patient, or bring them up while you set up the room, whatever that looks like. We still have to set clear expectations around how much it's going to cost and how long they're going to be there. So we can't skip that part. And sometimes I've seen that happen. So
Right.
Just making sure that your team decides on what that strategy is. For us, it was always just, the treatment coordinator would prepare the treatment plan, pop back to the operatory, go through the financials with the patient, and then remind them that, Mrs. Jones, we're going to have you here for about 45 minutes. For most of the dentists and practices that I speak to, the patient experience is one of the most important things to them. So we can't forget that that is, a value to a lot of people.
Sam, let's quickly wrap up what we've talked about here today. Same day treatment strategies. It's a 4-part process, really. What do we have?
We have making sure that we are paying attention to our daily goal and seeing how that translates into opportunities for same-day treatment. We need to make sure that in our huddle, we are talking about strategy and hypotheticals so that we're ready and able to execute a solid plan when that patient comes in to do some same-day treatment. We need to make sure that we are over-communicating anytime there's a change in the schedule, we need to over-communicate that to all team members so everybody's in the know. And finally, we want to make sure that we are really, really committed to the patient's experience always. Even if we're adding something in and creating a little bit of a kink in the day, we still want to have a good patient experience. It's important that we pay attention to that. And same-day treatment is it's a little gem. It's a wonderful, wonderful additive to a practice. And I think it's really beautiful when you can pay attention to some of these things and have a strategy around it. It can be a great additive to your daily production, for sure.
Right, just don't let it become a liability to your schedule.
That's right.
Okay. Sam, thanks very much again. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.